instead real Americans from the comfort of their own homes asking about real problems. Former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney said at the time, "I think that the presidency ought to be held to a higher level than having to answer questions from a snowman." But Romney missed the point by a mile. The snowman, created and animated by a voter, represented an engaging way to talk about an issue that too many times just seems like it's full of hot air. One lesson of the 2000 May campaign should be that politics doesn't have to be boring. The questions from real Americans in the August debate made an impact that even the debate moderator, Anderson Cooper, with his abundance of gravitas, could never hope to match. A Brooklyn lesbian couple asked whether candidates would let them get married to each other. A question on Darfur came in from aid workers in a refugee camp close to the conflict. And for a question on expanding health care insurance, 30-something Long Island woman took off her wig mid-question to showcase the effects of chemotherapy. In a campaign environment where too many of the candidates' answers seemed to be prepackaged talking points, the debate was a refreshing moment of authenticity and captured how ordinary Americans could now get a response from power that they never could have before. While some sites chided CNN for maintaining editorial control over choosing the questions, the online community could have voted on which questions they wanted to see during the debate, and indeed a grassroots group has sprung up that allowed them to do just that. The YouTube debate was a brave step forward down the technological road and a great experiment in participatory democracy. Nick O'Mealy, who was Dean's webmaster during the campaign, and I were having dinner a couple of nights after the YouTube debate, and we were talking about it, and he turned to me and he said, "Why would you ever go back? It was beautifully American," and I couldn't agree more. An important distinction and common thread to examine here through all of these stories and all of these aspects of the campaign is that since the Internet's inception, the Internet has always happened to candidates. They've always lagged behind in the adoption of technology, failing to realize what it could do, and thus being swept along as ordinary people stepped up and transformed the process. McCain and Bradley didn't realize the financial power of the Internet until it dropped money upon their heads. The Dean 2004 meetup groups were already growing and swelling long before our campaign manager, Joe Trippi, put a link up on the campaign's homepage. And when it comes to the web, candidates in this election are finding themselves yanked along as the train is leaving the station.
My one problem with Garrett Graff's observation about the YouTube debates is that one of the common complaints I heard from two different sources, Daily Show and Attack the Show on G4 TV, was that the questions were canned because there were some popular videos which were people wanted to have answered during the YouTube debates, but the moderators, the people at CNN and the people at YouTube basically picked the videos that were the more they basically knew they could get an answer out of the candidates with these certain questions. There's some questions which people wanted to have answered which just didn't make it through. In fact, myself, I was later approached by a guy from ABC.com for a Sunday talk with George Stephanopoulos, and he said, "Oh, why don't you submit your question?" And and actually I didn't want to because I work for the government, but I decided to give the guy a hard time, and I said, I would love to do that, but the thing is, how can I be guaranteed that my video will be, or like my question will be open to the public and not deemed necessary by, some sort of committee or by some, whatchamacallit. It's like basically somebody's going to look at my video and decide if it can go forward or not. It's not going to be posted on a public forum where people can decide by popular vote, by views or by rating, if they think that's a worthy question for the candidates. And the language the guy used basically, said it was going to be just that the producers of George Stephanopoulos' show would decide which videos would be presented. So that is, so that was my complaint and issue, and I tried to school the guy and let him know, like, look, this is, well, this is what you're trying to do, this is what you are doing, you're basically, the journalistic integrity of George Stephanopoulos is not there. I mean, it's there, but in the sense that it's control about what media is presented to him. So the sponsors for his program would be comfortable and happy, and not worried that this is too controversial or something. And at the same time, what is controversy during a presidential election? What is not controversy? I would rather get every sort of answer out of these guys, but that's just me. So this is an interesting book, the first campaign that Garrett Graff is talking about. I think he's just kind of giving a positive spin and rather than being negative towards the internet, which he could be, he's being positive toward the internet, and as a result, he could be expecting a positive response from the internet. So I don't know. It's interesting because, like, for myself, I'm fooling around with the idea that, okay, so it's controversy, and it's what sort of words you use, and like what'll turn up in searches. So like if I put in sex somewhere in a description of a video I post online, that's going to automatically increase the number of hits it gets. It's the same with the number of other words, names you haven't, because what are people looking for? So it's kind of sad, but it's interesting at the same time. I post these videos from Book TV, and some guy, they hardly get any hits. I post a video from a video game channel, gets tons of hits. Interesting.